Ethan Cross stood in the crowded auditorium of Ironclad City's Awakening Hall, the crystalline orb before him blazing with golden fire. The entire senior class of Westridge Academy held its breath. A golden light meant only one thing: a rank, Blaze Mage, combat class. The proctor's voice echoed through the hall. Ethan's childhood friend, Leo Ward, elbowed him hard. Dude, Amber just pulled an A rank. She's set for life. Amber Vance stepped off the platform with a toss of her platinum hair, eyes already scanning the crowd. They landed on Derek Grant, A-rank swordsman, heir to the Grant family's Awakening Stone monopoly. She smiled. Derek smiled back. Ethan didn't need to be a mind reader to see the calculation happening in real time. Next, Ethan Cross. Ethan walked up, nerves buzzing. The orb flared again, deeper gold than Amber's, almost blinding. Drake Collar, silence, then snickers, then outright laughter. Drake Collar, you've got to be kidding me. Derek's voice cut through the noise. What's he going to call? Fossils? Drakes have been extinct for 400 years, someone whispered loudly. That's worse than a D-rank crafter. Ethan stared at the letters floating above his palm, Drake Collar. The symbol of a coiled serpent with antlers shimmered once, then vanished. He felt a strange heat in his chest, not panic, but something else. Something waiting. Amber walked over, Derek at her side like a smug shadow. Her face was perfectly composed, the same face she'd worn the night she'd promised they'd awaken together and build a life. Ethan. She didn't look at his eyes. I can't. A Blaze Mage and a Drake Collar? We're not in the same universe anymore. We're done. Amber, I spent my entire savings on that class change crystal for you. Without it, you'd still be F rank. Leo stepped forward, fists clenched. You owe him. Derek laughed. What he bought her was a chance. She took it. That's not debt, that's charity. And charity's for losers. He draped an arm around Amber's shoulders. Come on, babe. Real power's waiting. Ethan said nothing. He just watched them walk away, the fire in his chest burning hotter. Cross! The voice came from nowhere, inside his skull, ancient. Vast Ethan stumbled, caught himself on a railing. The world tilted. Congratulations, Awakener. The ancestral Drake Airy has chosen you. I am the Ember Serpent, keeper of the first flame. In ages past, the true drakes ruled the skies, not the winged lizards your textbooks call dragons. Those were shadows, beasts with a drop of divine blood. What sleeps within you is the bloodline of the celestial drakes. You will reclaim our legacy. A sharp pain lanced through Ethan's skull as a new interface flickered behind his eyes. Mission: summon your first Drake son. Reward: unlock the Ember Serpent's power. Ethan blinked. The auditorium was empty now except for Leo and a couple of stragglers. You okay? Leo asked. You spaced out hard. I'm fine. Ethan straightened. I'm going to need to hit the trading center. Leo stared. What for? A tier 8 flamecrawler core. Are you insane? That costs 1,000,000 credits. I've got 30,000 saved up from 3 years of part-time work, and I'm the rich one. I'll figure it out. Ethan's eyes were distant. They humiliated me today. I'm going to make them pay it all back 100-fold. Harper, the Academy's combat instructor, intercepted them at the gate. She was tall, dark-haired, and carried the quiet authority of someone who'd spent a decade on the front lines of the Rift Wars. Unlike most instructors, she didn't look at Ethan with pity. Drake Collar, she said, as if tasting the word. Interesting. Very interesting. She handed him 2 shimmering scrolls, substitution scrolls. They absorb 1 fatal blow and teleport you to safety. I have a feeling you'll need them. Leo's jaw dropped. Mrs. Harper, these are worth 100,000 each. We can't, you can. Ethan Cross was the top student in tactical theory 3 years running. I don't believe in wasted potential. She held Ethan's gaze a moment longer than necessary. Don't prove me wrong. Later, as they walked toward the Blackwood Forest gate, Leo muttered, She's not just generous, she's into you. Dream on, Ethan said, but a faint smile tugged at his lips. At the gate, a security officer blocked them. No D-rank classes or below. State regulation for beast zones. He pointed at Leo. You're B-rank shield bearer. Fine. Then at Ethan. Drake Collar, 0 attack power. You'd be dead in 10 minutes. Miss Harper appeared like a ghost. Let them in, Ronan. Miss Harper, the rules are superseded by City Code Section 14, subsection B. Any class may enter a beast zone if provided with substitution scrolls by a registered instructor. I just gave them to him. She smiled thinly. I'll take full responsibility. Ronan's face soured, but he stepped aside. Fine, but don't cry when your pet project gets splattered. Ethan and Leo spent 6 hours in Blackwood, fighting low-tier beasts, gathering cores and materials. Leo's shield blocked a pack of gnashing razor wolves, while Ethan used his tactical knowledge to guide them into a rockfall trap. They worked like a machine, but all Ethan's loot combined barely scraped together 2,000 credits. At this rate, Leo said, You'll buy that core when we're 50. Back at the Awakeners Guild trading post, a familiar voice stopped Ethan cold. Oh, look, the cute little Drake collar. Still trying to scrounge together a future? Amber was draped over Derek's shoulder, a shopping bag dangling from her wrist. Derek's grin was wide and unpleasant. Babe, don't be mean. He's already suffering. He tapped the counter. I'm here to pick up a reset scroll for my girl's brother, just in case his awakening goes bad. The clerk nodded. Already reserved, Mr. Grant. 1,000,000 credits. 1,000,000? Leo sputtered. You're just throwing that around? Derek shrugged. Pocket change. By the way, that's the only reset scroll in stock. The next batch takes 6 months. So if our little Drake collar wanted to reset his trash class, well, too bad. Ethan's hand tightened on the counter, but he forced calm. I don't need a reset. Oh, right. You actually think you can summon a Drake. That's adorable, Amber giggled. Wake up, Ethan. You're a 0. Before Ethan could reply, the guild door swung open and Miss Harper strode in. Every clerk straightened. Every customer went quiet. She walked straight to the counter and placed a black card on the glass. I'm buying the reset scroll now, the clerk stammered. But Miss Harper, Mr. Grant reserved. I'm a Supreme VIP. Priority override. You can check the guild charter. Her eyes pinned Derek like a butterfly to a board. Or you can call your father. Your choice. Derek's face went red, then white. This isn't over, Harper. It never is. She took the scroll and turned to Ethan. Take it. Change your class tomorrow. Pay me back when you're rich. She pressed it into his hands. I'm looking forward to it. Ethan stared at the scroll, a strange heat prickling behind his eyes. Miss Harper, call me Grace. She smiled, and for a moment the entire guild hall seemed to soften. And don't you dare sell it for beast cores. I'll know. That night, Ethan sat in his cramped dorm room, the reset scroll on his desk, and the mission burning in his vision. He needed a Tier 8 Flamecrawler core to summon his Drake. The scroll was worth 1,000,000 credits, exactly the price of the core. He could trade it. But that meant betraying Grace Harper's faith. A knock. Leo entered, dragging a bulging sack. He dumped it on Ethan's bed, armor pieces, weapons, consumables, every piece of gear he owned. Sell it. It's not much, maybe 50,000, but it's everything. Leo, I can't. I'm investing in the future Drake King, Leo said. Don't make me look like an idiot. Ethan clasped his friend's shoulder. I won't let you down. He didn't sell the scroll. Instead, he went back to the guild hall before dawn and found the night clerk, a tired-eyed woman who'd always been kind to him. Can I trade this reset scroll for a Tier 8 Flamecrawler core? Quietly. She studied him, then the scroll. This is worth 1,000,000. The core is also 1,000,000. You understand you're throwing away a class change? I'm exactly where I need to be. She sighed, then slid a small pulsing orange gem across the counter. Your funeral, kid. The core burned in his palm. He walked to the academy roof as the sun rose and pressed the gem to his chest. Processing, summoning, ember serpent, the sky split. A spiral of golden fire poured from the rift, and from it descended a serpent of living flame, its antlers wreathed in lightning, its eyes twin suns. The pressure flattened the rooftop, shattered windows across the campus. Every beast within a mile went silent. Ethan laughed, arms spread wide. I told you all. The ember serpent coiled around him, its voice a furnace. I am Pyrax's first son. The true drakes have returned. Now, let's make them pay. The next morning, Ironclad Academy was abuzz with news. The awakening stones were being recalled for maintenance. All class change ceremonies were suspended for a month. Derek Grant had made a few calls. Ethan stood in the assembly hall, facing the smirking face of his enemy. Principal Ortega looked uncomfortable. Mr. Cross, the Grant family's contract with the city gives them authority over stone maintenance. I'm afraid there's nothing I can do. That's right, Derek said loudly. Guess you're stuck as a cute little Drake collar forever, unless you want to take my offer. Hand over that reset scroll, and I'll give you a set of basic combat gear. Second hand, of course. Amber leaned against him. Come on, Ethan. Stop being stubborn. You were always a nobody. Just accept it. The other students laughed. Leo's shield arm twitched, but Ethan placed a hand on his shoulder. You know what? I don't want a class change. Derek blinked. What? I said. I don't want to change. I'm a Drake collar, and I have a Drake. Ethan raised his hand. Pyrax, show them. The ember serpent materialized. Not as a full Drake, but as a blazing phantom that filled the hall with golden light and crushing pressure. The floor cracked. The windows rattled. Derek staggered back, his face a mask of terror. Impossible. Drakes are extinct. This is an illusion. The Academy's class evaluation bell began to ring. Once, twice, 5 times, 10 times. The bell shattered. Principal Ortega's voice was barely a whisper. Rank. No, beyond S rank. The bell couldn't handle the measurement. The bell was broken, Derek shouted. He's faking it. He's not. The voice came from the doorway. An old man in a traveling cloak stepped inside, his presence commanding instant silence. The bell didn't break. It was overwhelmed. That boy has summoned a being beyond the classification scale. I should know. I built that bell. Principal Ortega went pale. President Harrison's. You're early. I came to evaluate the city's top prospect. Harrison's sharp eyes fixed on Ethan. I think I just found him. Grace Harper appeared at Harrison's side. Grandfather, you're already causing a scene. Grace, Harrison beamed. Your student, I presume? He is. She met Ethan's eyes. What did you do? Summoned a Drake, Ethan said. Sorry about the windows. Derek's face contorted with fury and fear. This changes nothing. The Grant family still controls the stones, and my father, your father, Harrison interrupted, has been abusing his maintenance contract to suppress competition. I've already filed a report with the Capitol. The Grant family's monopoly is over. Derek looked like he'd been punched in the gut. Amber shrank away from him, suddenly unsure, but Ethan had no time to savor the victory. His mission interface flashed red. Urgent, Grace Harper is trapped in the Netherthrone dungeon. The dungeon has mutated. Danger level. Critical. He spun toward Grace. When did you get an emergency mission? Last night. A high-tier beast incursion in Netherthrone. I was supposed to leave in an hour. Her expression hardened. Why? You can't go. The dungeon's going to mutate. You'll be trapped. How do you know that? I just know. He grabbed her wrist. Don't go, please. She studied his face, then nodded slowly. I'll delay it, but I need to check the reports. Before she could move, her communicator buzzed. She answered, listened, and her face went pale. The Netherthrone dungeon, it's mutated. A strike team is already inside. They're calling for evacuation. She looked at Ethan with wide eyes. You knew. I'm going in. Absolutely not. You're a student. I'm a Drake caller with an S-rank combat rating. He summoned Pyrax again, the Drake's fire casting long shadows. And I'm the only one who can handle whatever's inside. President Harrison stepped forward. Let him go, Grace. And you, young man, I'm promoting you to field provisional rank. This is your trial by fire. The Netherthrone dungeon was a hellscape of twisting rock and weeping shadows. Ethan carved through waves of mutated beasts, Pyrax's fire incinerating everything in his path. Deeper in, he found the strike team, or what was left of them, huddled behind a collapsing barrier, their healer unconscious. Clear a path to the exit, Ethan ordered. I'll handle the boss. The boss? Kid, that thing's a Tier 7 Nether Lich. It'll eat you alive. Ethan just smiled and walked forward. The Lich rose from a pool of necrotic energy, its skull burning with green fire. Fresh soul, delicious. Pyrax roared and met the Lich's deathbolt head-on. The clash shook the cavern. Ethan pressed the attack, channeling his Drake's power through his own body, flame-wreathed fists, enhanced speed, draconic resilience. But the Lich was ancient, crafty. It teleported behind him, bone spear aimed at his heart. A blur intercepted the blow. Grace Harper stood between Ethan and the Lich, her own combat instructor badge glowing with a defensive aura. Don't you dare, she snarled. Touch my student. The Lich laughed. 2 souls for the price of 1. Ethan's rage boiled over. Pyrax! Full fusion. The Ember Serpent wrapped around him, and for the first time, Ethan felt the Drake's power merge with his own flesh. His eyes blazed gold. Antlers of fire sprouted from his temples. Scales rippled across his forearms. He wasn't just a summoner, he was becoming the Drake one punch. The Lich's barrier shattered. A second punch obliterated its skull. The necrotic core detonated, and Ethan stood in the wreckage, breathing hard, Grace Harper cradled in his arms. Show off, she murmured weakly, then passed out. When she woke in the infirmary, her grandfather was sitting beside the bed, Ethan in a chair across the room. He carried you out of a collapsed dungeon while bleeding from 17 wounds, Harrison said. I'm officially making him my personal disciple. Grace tried to sit up. He's a student. He hasn't even taken the Capitol entrance exam. He'll take it. He'll ace it. And then he'll train under me. Harrison tossed Ethan a black card. Growth gear. No limit. Don't disappoint me. Ethan caught the card. I won't, sir. But I need to ask, do you know where I can find another Drake son? There are 8 more. I need to find them all. Harrison's expression grew grave. The old Drakes? That's a secret guarded by the 4 university presidents. To access that knowledge, you must first qualify for the Divine Four Gauntlet, a tournament of the top students in the nation. Win it, and I can open the way. A new mission flared. New mission. Win the Divine Four Gauntlet. Reward. Location of the second Drake's son, Stormdrake Valeth. I'll win it, Ethan said. But first, there's someone I need to settle a score with. He found Derek Grant in the academy courtyard, surrounded by a gaggle of cronies. The moment Ethan appeared, the cronies scattered. Derek stood alone, defiant but visibly trembling. You think you're a big shot now, Derek spat. Just because you have a monster? The Grant family has friends in the capital. You're still nothing. The only reason you're not in a cell, Ethan said quietly, is because Principal Ortega asked me to show mercy. You abused your family's power, tried to destroy my future, and you think you can just walk away? Derek pulled a sword from his inventory. Then let's settle it. Right here. Ethan didn't even summon Pyrax. He sidestepped the clumsy swing, caught Derek's wrist, and twisted. The sword clattered to the ground. You're not worth the effort, Ethan said, but listen carefully. If you ever come near me, my friends, or Miss Harper again, I'll show you what a real Drake can do. He released Derek, who stumbled back and fled. Amber, watching from the sidelines, started to approach. Ethan, wait. I made a mistake. I was scared, and Derek promised. You made your choice. I've made mine. He didn't look back. The Divine Four Gauntlet was held in the capital's Grand Coliseum. Tens of thousands watched as the nation's most elite young awakeners battled for supremacy. Ethan cut through the early rounds like a scythe through wheat. Pyrax's firestorms left competitors scorched and dazed. By the semifinals, he faced Leonard Vance, Derek's older cousin, a Tier 6 cryomancer who'd been waiting for this moment. You humiliated my family, Leonard snarled, ice crackling around his fists. I'm going to freeze the blood in your veins and shatter you into pieces. The match began. Leonard's opening salvo was an avalanche spear, a technique that could kill a Tier 5 beast instantly. Ethan raised a hand, and Pyrax's fire formed a dome around him, evaporating the ice on contact. Before Leonard could recover, Ethan closed the distance and planted a blazing kick in his chest. The cryomancer flew across the arena and crashed into the barrier, unconscious. The announcer's voice boomed. Winner, Ethan Cross, the Drake Caller. In the finals, he faced a quiet, unassuming young man named Julian Reed, a Tier 7 shadow dancer who fought with 2 daggers that phased through armor. Julian was fast, clever, and utterly outclassed. Ethan summoned Pyrax's full form, and the Drake's roar sent Julian sprawling. The match lasted 43 seconds. As the confetti fell, President Harrison rose from his seat. Ethan Cross, by right of victory, you are granted access to the Forgotten Sanctum, the resting place of the Storm Drake Valeth. But be warned, the Sanctum's guardian will test not your strength, but your heart. Ethan bowed. I'm ready. The Forgotten Sanctum was a pocket dimension suspended in eternal twilight. Lightning flickered across a sky the color of bruised plums. At its center stood a massive stone tablet, and before it a figure made of condensed storm energy, an ancient draconic spirit, its eyes like twin thunderclouds. I am Valeth's echo, the spirit intoned. To claim the Storm Drake, you must answer one question. What do you fight for? Ethan thought of Grace, who'd believed in him when no one else did. Of Leo, who'd given him everything. Of the world beyond, where outer gods lurked in the void, waiting to devour all life. I fight to protect the people I love, and to destroy anyone who threatens them. Love and destruction, 2 sides of the same Drake. The spirit seemed to smile. Acceptable. But there is a price. To bond with Valeth, you must give up a memory, a piece of yourself. Will you pay? Yes. The spirit's lightning struck his mind, and Ethan felt something slip away. The exact shape of his mother's face, the sound of her laughter. It hurt. But when the pain faded, a new presence settled in his soul. Valeth, the Storm Drake, its wings crackling with lightning. The mission complete. 2nd Drake son acquired. New mission. Locate the remaining 7 sons. When Ethan emerged from the sanctum, Grace was waiting. You were gone for 3 days. I was starting to think you wouldn't come back. Told you I would. He flexed his hand, and a tiny bolt of lightning danced between his fingers. I've got 2 Drakes now. Only 7 more to go. She laughed, and for a moment, the weight of the world lifted. But then her expression turned serious. Grandfather received word from the capital. There's been a massive rift surge on the northern front. An outer god's projection is trying to break through the planetary shield. The military is calling for all elite awakeners. Ethan's interface flashed new mission. Repel the outer god's projection. Reward 3rd Drake's son, Abyssal Drake Nerexus. Then let's go, he said. I've got a lot of payback to deliver. The northern front was a frozen wasteland where the sky bled black and purple. A massive rift hung in the air like an open wound, and from it poured nightmare creatures, twisted amalgamations of flesh and void. At the heart of the incursion, a shadowy figure with a crown of darkness directed the assault. The herald of the outer god Vornath, Ethan landed amidst the chaos with Pyrax on his left and Valeth on his right. Fire and lightning carved a path through the enemy ranks. The herald turned its eyeless gaze upon him. Another insect. Your drakes are echoes of dead gods. They cannot harm me. Try saying that after I shove a lightning bolt down your throat. Valeth shrieked and unleashed a tempest lance that pierced the herald's chest. The shadowy form rippled but didn't fall. Foolish. The more you wound me, the more energy I drain from the rift. You're only feeding Vorneth's descent. Ethan realized with horror that the herald was right. The rift was widening. A massive, clawed hand began to push through. The outer god itself. Then I'll close the rift first. He raised both arms. Pyrax Valeth, merge your powers with mine. Inferno Storm. A spiraling maelstrom of fire and lightning blasted into the rift, disrupting its energy matrix. The hand recoiled. The herald screamed and lunged at Ethan, but a wall of ice intercepted it. Grace Harper dropped from the sky, her combat instructor badge blazing with borrowed power. I said I'd protect you. I meant it. She held the herald at bay while Ethan poured more draconic energy into the rift. Inch by inch, the portal began to contract, but the strain was immense. Ethan felt his life force draining, his vision going dark at the edges. Not yet! He drew on the bond with his drakes, pulling strength from their spirits. Pyrax's fire reignited his heart. Valeth's lightning jolted his nerves, and from deep within, a third voice answered, a cold, ancient whisper from the depths of the rift itself. You fight Vorneth's domain with fire and storm, but what lies beneath the waves? What lurks in the abyss? Call me. I am Nerexus. Ethan grinned, blood trickling from his mouth. Nerexus, I summon you, the rift convulsed. From its very core, a serpentine shape of pure darkness burst forth, not from beyond, but from within the rift's own shadow. The abyssal drake wrapped around the herald and dragged it into the collapsing portal, its final shriek echoing across the tundra. The rift slammed shut, silence. Snow fell softly. Ethan collapsed to his knees, Grace catching him before he hit the ground. You idiot, she breathed, tears freezing on her cheeks. You almost died. Worth it. He let his head fall against her shoulder. 3 drakes. 7 to go. She held him until the rescue team arrived. Back in Ironclad City, celebrations erupted. The herald had been defeated, the outer god's incursion repelled. Ethan Cross was a national hero, but in the quiet of his recovery room, he received a grim report from President Harrison. The outer god you faced was just a scout, a fragment. The real threat is still out there, biding its time. The ancient records say that only the unity of all 9 Drake sons can forge the ancestral Drake, a being capable of slaying an outer god. But the remaining 6 locations are scattered across the most dangerous rift zones on the planet. Ethan sat up, bandages pulling at his wounds. Then I'd better get moving. There's more. An old enemy is moving in the shadows. General Lee, the Grant's ally in the capital, has been conspiring with foreign powers to eliminate you. He's already issued a covert kill order. You'll have enemies everywhere. Then I'll walk through them. Ethan stood, his Drake's power humming beneath his skin. Tell the general I'm coming, and I'm bringing the storm. Grace entered the room, a faint smile on her lips. The 3 of us, me, you, and Leo, against a corrupt general and an outer god, sounds like a Tuesday. Actually, Ethan said, it sounds like a family tradition. In a dark chamber, far from Ironclad, General Leonard Grant, grandfather of the disgraced Derek, stared at a shattered surveillance orb. The image of Ethan Cross summoning 3 drakes was burned into his retinas. He's growing too fast. If he collects all 9, even Vornath might fall. A cold voice whispered from the shadows. Then we ensure he never collects them. I will send my finest assassins. Sakura Country's Phantom Blade Division owes me a favor. Make it quick, the general said, before he becomes unstoppable. Patience. The boy is strong, but he has attachments. A sister, a mentor, a friend. Break those, and you break him. The shadow laughed, and the sound slithered through the dark like a promise of death. Ethan dreamed of the day his parents died. He was 7 years old, standing in a burning house, his sister Mara clutching his hand. A rift beast, a manticore, had broken through the city's shields. His father had held it off while his mother got them to safety. Neither parent came back. He woke with a start. The image of Mara's terrified face burned into his mind. She was 20 now, working as a field medic in the southern campaigns. He hadn't seen her in 2 years. A new mission notification glowed softly. Quest. Protect Mara Cross. Danger. Location, Southern Front. Urgency. Immediate. Ethan was out of bed and dressed in 30 seconds. Grace caught him at the teleportation gate. You're not going alone. You're still healing. My sister's in danger. I don't have a choice. I'm coming with you. Her voice left no room for argument, and so is Leo. They arrived at the Southern Front to find chaos. A new rift had opened directly above the medical camp, and monsters were pouring through. In the center of the carnage, Mara Cross was dragging wounded soldiers to safety, a combat knife in one hand and a meaty kit in the other, her face a mask of grim determination. A massive siege worm burst from the ground, its maw wide enough to swallow a truck. Mara stood directly in its path. Pyrax, Valeth, Nirexus. Ethan called all three drakes at once. Fire, storm, and abyssal darkness converged on the worm, reducing it to a smoking crater. Ethan landed beside his sister, heart pounding. Mara, are you okay, Ethan? She stared at him, then at the three drakes circling overhead. When did you get big? I'll explain later. Right now we're getting you out of here. The attack was coordinated. A squad of masked assassins dropped from the shadows, the Phantom Blade Division. Their leader, a lithe woman with a blade that whispered of death, pointed at Ethan. Target acquired. Kill the sister and the teacher first. The Drake Tamer will break. Leo's shield slammed down in front of Mara. Not happening. Grace wove a combat dance through the assassins, her fists and kicks precise, brutal. Ethan unleashed the full fury of his drakes. Firestorms and lightning blasts sent assassins flying. The leader managed to get close, her blade flickering toward Ethan's throat, but Nirexus's abyssal maw swallowed the strike, and Pyrax's clawed wing sent her crashing into the dirt. Who sent you? Ethan demanded, pinning her with draconic pressure. The general, she gasped. He made a deal with the Outer God's followers. They want you dead, before you can gather all 9 sons. Where is he? The capital. The Divine Gauntlet. He's arranging an ambush. All the traitors will be there. Ethan stepped back. I'll deal with him later. Right now, I have a family to protect. He helped Mara to her feet. Sis, I'm sorry I wasn't around. She punched his arm hard. Don't you ever scare me like that again, you idiot. And for the record, Mom and Dad would be proud. He hugged her tight. I know. That night, around a campfire on the edge of the battlefield, Grace sat beside Ethan. You saved your sister, stopped an assassination, and secured the southern front. Not bad for a Tuesday. Still have a corrupt general to take down, Ethan said. And 6 more drakes, and an outer god. Yeah, that too. He looked at her, the firelight dancing in her eyes. Back in the academy, when I was just a trash class nobody, you saw something in me. Why? Grace was quiet for a moment. Because my grandmother was a drake caller too. She awakened the class 50 years ago, but no drake ever answered her call. She spent her whole life studying the old lore, convinced the true drakes would return. She died 2 years ago, but before she did, she told me, the drakes will come back when the world needs them most. And when they do, someone will answer their call. That person will carry the hope of humanity. She met Ethan's eyes. When you awakened, I knew it was you. Ethan took her hand. I won't let her down. Or you. She didn't pull away. You'd better not. The next morning, President Harrison's projection appeared before them. Ethan, I've confirmed General Grant's treachery. He's already fled the capital, but his allies are deeply entrenched. The Divine Four Gauntlet was a trap. The remaining matches were rigged. But since you won decisively, we have the legal authority to purge his network. I need you to come to the capital and testify before the War Council. I'll be there, Ethan said, but after that, I'm going after the remaining drakes. Vorneth won't wait. Then I'll prepare the way. The next drake's son is Terra, the stone drake, sealed beneath the obsidian citadel in the western Badlands. The citadel is a death trap. Even S-rank teams have failed to breach it. But you're not just an S-ranker anymore. I'm a drake caller, Ethan said. That's better. The War Council chamber was packed with generals, politicians, and the heads of the great families. Ethan walked in with Grace and Leo at his side, his 3 drakes in ethereal form circling overhead. The murmuring stopped. He presented the evidence. Intercepted communications, assassin confessions, financial records linking General Grant to foreign agents and rift cultists. When he finished, the council voted unanimously to declare Grant a traitor and seize all his assets, but as the session ended, an aide rushed in with a panic-stricken expression. Sirs, a new rift has appeared directly over the capital. It's massive. An outer god is descending. Ethan rushed outside. The sky was cracking open, and from the fissure, a shape of impossible darkness was taking form. Vornath, the devourer of stars, its body a constellation of swallowed worlds. New mission, defeat Vornath's avatar. Reward, unlock the remaining 6 Drake sons simultaneously via ancestral awakening. Warning, success probability is 7% with current power 7%. Ethan clenched his fists. I've beaten worse odds. Grace grabbed his arm. Ethan, you can't fight that alone. Let the army buy time while you gather the other drakes. There's no time. If Vornath fully manifests, the planet dies. I have to fight it now with what I have. He kissed her forehead quickly, fiercely. If I don't make it back, tell Mara I love her. And tell Leo to keep being the best shield bearer. You're not saying goodbye. Her voice cracked. You come back. That's an order. Yes, Mom. He launched into the sky, 3 drakes roaring around him. Pyrax, Valeth, Nirexus, they merged with him in a blaze of tri-elemental fusion. His body blazed with draconic light, a living comet streaking toward the abyss. Vornath's avatar focused its million-year gaze upon him. Little candle, your ancestors could not stop me. What hope have you? The hope, Ethan shouted. That I'll never give up. He struck the outer god's form like a missile. The clash shredded clouds, flattened buildings miles away. Fire, lightning, and shadow tore at Vornath's essence, but the outer god simply laughed and reformed. You cannot kill a concept. I am the darkness before light. I am the hunger that never ends. Ethan was thrown back, blood streaming from a dozen wounds. His drake's power flickered, their spirits fading. Then he felt it. A pull from deep within the planet itself. The voice of the world, of the ancestral drake, speaking through his bond. You are not alone, child. The 9 suns are not separate. They are fragments of my soul. Call them with your will, not your voice. Be the vessel of the ancestor, and I shall rise. Ethan closed his eyes. He reached not outward, but inward, to the core of his own soul, where the ember serpent's flame still burned, where Valeth's storm still raged, where Nerexus's abyss still whispered. He thought of Grace, of Leo, of Mara, of every person who'd ever believed in him. He thought of his parents, their sacrifice. He thought of a world that deserved a future. His scream rent the heavens. Come forth. The world went silent. Then the ground split. From the very bones of the planet, a dragon of pure starlight rose. Not a drake, but the drake, the original source of all 9 suns. Its eyes were galaxies. Its breath was creation and destruction in one. Vornath's avatar recoiled. Impossible. The ancestor fell eons ago. I slept. The ancestral drake intoned, its voice the rumble of shifting continents. Now I wake, and you, little shadow, will be the first to burn. The battle that followed was beyond human comprehension. The ancestral drake's fire unmade the very laws of physics around Vornath. The outer god's form unraveled, its essence scattered across dimensions, sealed away from the material plane. When the light faded, Ethan was falling, his body spent, his drake silent within him. A pair of arms caught him. Grace, wings of borrowed wind magic, keeping her aloft, held him against her chest. You did it. You actually did it. Told you I'd come back. He tried to laugh, but it came out as a cough. 7% was plenty. She flew him down to the crater where the capital's palace had once stood. The city was in ruins, but the sky was clear. People were emerging from shelters, staring at the fading embers of draconic light. President Harrison limped over, his clothes singed but his eyes bright. Vornath's avatar is destroyed. The main body is still out there, beyond the shield, but it's been severely wounded. We have time. Years, maybe decades. He clasped Ethan's shoulder. You've given humanity a future. Good, Ethan said, leaning on Grace, because I'm not done. There are 11 more outer gods out there. I'll need the ancestral drake's full power to face them. I need to master all 9 suns permanently, not just in desperation. Then train, Harrison said. The ancestral drake chose you. The 9 suns will answer your call again. But next time, it can't be a last-ditch gambit. You'll need to forge them into a permanent fusion, the Torch Drake, the being that controls the cycle of day and night, life and death. That is the ultimate form of the Drake Caller, the Torch Drake. The name resonated in Ethan's bones. He nodded. Then I'll start today. In the weeks that followed, Ethan, Grace, Leo, and Mara traveled to the Obsidian Citadel in the west. This time, with the ancestor's residual power still echoing in his soul, Ethan breached the Citadel's defenses and faced its guardian, a demigod of living stone. The battle was brutal, but when Ethan finally called Terra the Stone Drake into being, the Citadel crumbled around them, and a 4th sun joined his bond. Then came Zephyra, the Wind Drake, in the Skyshatter Peaks. Then Aquarion, the Water Drake, in the sunken city of the Eastern Trench. One by one, the Drake Sons answered his call. By the end of the year, 8 suns had been gathered. Only one remained. The Void Drake, Umbrath, sealed in the heart of the Godfall Rift, the site where the gods themselves had once fought and died. To claim it, Ethan would have to enter the deepest, most unstable rift in existence and face the echoes of the ancient war. And waiting for him there, according to Harrison's intelligence, was General Grant, who had allied with a fragment of Vornath's consciousness and planned to use the Void Drake's power to become a god himself. Ethan stood at the edge of the Godfall Rift, his team beside him. Leo raised his shield. Same plan as always? Charge in and hit them until they stop moving? Ethan grinned. Yeah. Grace rolled her eyes but smiled. Try not to almost die this time. No promises. They jumped. Far below the waking world, in the abyss of the Godfall Rift, a figure made of malice and betrayal watched them descend. General Grant, now a twisted fusion of human ambition and outer god essence, laughed. Come, Drake Caller. Your soul will be the final piece I need to transcend. And in the darkness, the Void Drake stirred. Waiting for a worthy master, the Godfall Rift swallowed them whole. Ethan Cross felt the familiar lurch of spatial distortion as the world inverted around him. The gray skies of the western Badlands vanished, replaced by a dimension of fractured light and eternal twilight. Jagged islands of black rock floated in a sea of violet mist. The air tasted of ozone and ancient grief. This was where gods had died, and their corpses still whispered. He landed hard on a floating platform of obsidian, knees bending to absorb the impact. Leo Ward crashed down beside him with a grunt, his tower shield already deployed, its surface shimmering with protective runes. Grace Harper touched down in perfect silence, her combat instructor's uniform replaced by tactical gear that gleamed with embedded mana circuits. And Mara Cross, Ethan's sister, brought up the rear, field medic pack clinking, a pulse pistol in her free hand. "Everyone alive?" Ethan asked, already scanning the shadows. "Define alive," Leo groaned, pushing himself up. "I think my spleen relocated." "Spleens are overrated," Mara said, a faint smile on her tired face. "I can patch you up if it actually bursts." Grace moved to Ethan's side, her eyes tracking the drifting islets. "The energy here is wrong. It's not just rift energy. It's something older, more malicious." Ethan nodded. His 3 currently active drakes, Pyrax, Valeth, and Nerexus, stirred uneasily within his soul. The Void Drake's domain, Pyrax's mental voice crackled. "Umbrath was always the strangest of us. He chose to remain here after the ancient war, guarding the rift's heart. He's been alone for eons. That kind of solitude warps even a drake. Then we unwarp him." Ethan stretched out a hand, and a small wisp of ember fire danced on his palm. "I didn't come this far to walk away without all 9 suns." A cold laugh echoed across the chasm. Bold words for a mortal still bleeding from his last battle. The mist parted, revealing a figure standing on a nearby platform. General Leonard Grant, or what had been General Grant. His human form had been twisted into something monstrous. His left arm was a mass of writhing void tendrils. His eyes burned with stolen outer god essence. A crown of crystallized darkness rested on his brow. Behind him, a massive drake shape coiled in the gloom, not a true drake, but something crafted from shadow and malice. A mockery of Umbrath. "You've come far, Ethan Cross," Grant said, his voice layered with otherworldly harmonics. "But the Void Drake belongs to me now. Its power is what allowed me to merge with Vornath's fragment. Once I fully absorb the Drake's core, I'll ascend beyond mortality. The outer gods will bow to me." "You're a traitor and a fool," Grace said flatly. "Vornath's essence is eating your soul. You're already dead, you just haven't stopped moving." Grant's twisted face contorted with rage. "I am the future. The old world of rules and bloodlines kept me from true power. But here in the Godfall, there are no rules, only power, and I have more than you can imagine." Ethan stepped forward, flames kindling along his arms. "Then let's stop imagining and start fighting. Pyrax, Valeth, Nerexus, merge with me. Try Drake Ascension." The 3 drakes roared as their essences flowed into Ethan's body. His form blazed with layered light, crimson fire, blue-white lightning, and abyssal violet shadow. Scales rippled across his skin. Antlers of condensed flame and storm sprouted from his temples. His eyes became triple-ringed pools of draconic power. Grant laughed and raised his void-twisted arm. "Impressive. But I have something you don't, a true fragment of an outer god. Behold the Void Tyrant's mantle." The shadow drake behind him surged forward, an enormous worm of compressed darkness, its body studded with eyes that wept black tears. It was not Umbrath, but a corrupted husk created from the Void Drake's stolen energy, puppeted by Grant's will and Vornath's essence. Leo slammed his tower shield into the ground, generating a bastion dome that covered the team. "Whatever that thing is, it's got enough negative energy to make a lich blush. I can hold it for maybe 30 seconds. Then I'll finish this in 20. Ethan launched himself at the Shadow Drake, claws of fire and lightning extended. The clash was cataclysmic. The Shadow Drake's body was semi-corporeal. Ethan's attacks passed through it, only for the creature to reform and strike back with tendrils of soul-draining darkness. Each tendril that touched him leached away a fraction of his life force. The Tri-Drake Ascension flickered, its stability threatened. "You see?" Grant crowed. "Umbrath's power is the void, the space between existence. Your fire and storm are meaningless against nothingness itself." Ethan gritted his teeth. He'd fought Void Beast before, but this was different. This wasn't just absence, it was active negation. Every attack he threw was unmade before it connected. "Think Cross. What counters nothing?" "Existence," Nerexus whispered. "I am the Abyssal Drake, born of the deep places where light and dark meet. The void is not my enemy. It is my shadow. Let me speak to Umbrath." "He knows me." Ethan hesitated. Letting Nerexus take point meant shifting the fusion's balance, potentially destabilizing it entirely. But the Shadow Drake was already battering Leo's dome, cracked spider webbing across its surface. Mara was laying down suppressing fire, but her pulse bolts just vanished into the creature's mass. Grace was weaving a combat dance, striking at the Shadow Drake's eyes, but for every eye she destroyed, two more opened. Do it, Ethan decided. Nerexus, take lead. Everyone else, support. The fusion shifted. Fire and lightning dimmed as abyssal shadow surged to the forefront. Ethan's blazing scales turned a deep, fathomless violet. His eyes became twin pools of liquid darkness. The Shadow Drake paused, its countless eyes swiveling toward him. Brother, Nerexus's voice echoed, not through Ethan's mind, but across the rift itself. I know you are in there. That creature is not you. It is a chain forged from your own loneliness and Grant's corruption. Break it. Come home. The ancestor calls. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the Shadow Drake shuddered. A hairline crack appeared down its center, and from within that crack, a sliver of pure black light emerged. Not the murky darkness of Vornath's essence, but the clean, cold void of a true drake. Nerexus. The voice was faint, distant, like a star's last whisper. I have been so alone. The silence, it ate at me. When the human offered to fill the silence with purpose, I accepted. I did not realize he would cage me. You are not caged. You are the Void Drake. The void is your domain, not your prison. Break his hold. Come back to yourself. The crack widened. The Shadow Drake screamed, a sound of tearing fabric and shattering glass, and then its form imploded. From the collapsing darkness, a figure emerged. A drake of pure obsidian scales, its body slender and sinuous, its eyes twin singularities that devoured light. Umbrath, the ninth son, unbound. Grant staggered back, clutching his chest. No, the Void Tyrant's mantle was supposed to be permanent. You can't just, I can. Ethan extended his hand toward Umbrath. I'm a Drake caller. Calling drakes is what I do. Umbrath, will you fight with me? The Void Drake turned its gravity-well gaze upon Ethan. You are the one the ancestor chose. I feel the sparks of my brothers within you. Pyrax, Veolith, Nerexus, and the others, dormant but present. You have walked through fire and storm and abyss. Now you stand at the edge of nothing. Are you willing to fall into the void and still keep your heart? I am. Then I am yours. Umbrath's form dissolved into a stream of singularities and poured into Ethan's chest. The impact was like swallowing a collapsing star. Ethan doubled over, gasping, as the Void Drake's essence settled alongside its brothers. 4 drakes now burned within him. Fire, storm, abyss, and void. Ninths. 9th Drake son acquired. Total, 4-9. The remaining 5 sons are dormant within the ancestral Drake's legacy. To unlock them simultaneously, host must achieve the Torch Drake incarnation. Prewesekint. Absorb the breath of the Torch Drake, a relic guarded by the Harper bloodline. Ethan straightened, breathing hard. Grant was still alive, but the outer god essence within him was recoiling, no longer anchored by the stolen Drake's power. The general's form was unraveling, void tendrils withering, his human face flickering back into view. This isn't over, Grant rasped. Vornath's main body is still out there, and when the planetary shield fails, your little drakes won't be enough. The outer gods will feast on your world, and I will be there to watch you burn. You won't be watching anything. Grace stepped forward, her eyes cold. General Leonard Grant, by order of the war councils and the 4 university presidents, you are under arrest for high treason, conspiracy with hostile entities, and multiple counts of attempted murder. Surrender now. Grant laughed, a wet, broken sound. Surrender? I'd rather die free. He raised a glowing crystal in his remaining hand. This is a spatial collapse device. If I activate it, this entire rift implodes. We all die. Leo's shield arm tightened. He's bluffing. He's not, Mara said quietly, her medic scanner glowing. That thing's energy signature is off the charts. It could tear a hole in reality. Ethan met Grant's desperate eyes. What do you want? Safe passage out of this rift. And a ship, an interplanetary vessel. Let me leave Blue Star, and I'll never return. You'll never see me again. You tried to kill my sister. You tried to kill Grace. You betrayed the entire human race to an outer god. Ethan's voice was flat. Why would I ever let you walk away? Because if you don't, everyone you love dies here with me. Grant's thumb hovered over the crystal's activation rune. 10 seconds, Cross. Make your choice. Ethan closed his eyes. 4 drakes hummed within him. Fire, storm, abyss, void. But none of them could stop a spatial collapse. Not in time. He needed something else. Something beyond elements. Host, the system voice chimed, calm as ever. Detected spatial destabilization threat. Suggestion. Utilize Umbrath's void authority to neutralize the collapse. The Void Drake governs the fabric of space. A spatial collapse device is, at its core, a localized void event. Umbrath can absorb it, but the process will require the host to contain the energy within his own body. Risk of death, 63%. 63% is better than 100. Umbrath, but you will suffer. The collapse energy is unrefined. It will try to unmake you from the inside. You must hold it together with sheer will while I process it. If your will falters, even for a moment, you are gone. Ethan opened his eyes. Okay, Grant, you win. Come closer, and I'll escort you to the surface myself. Grant's eyes narrowed with suspicion. No tricks. I'll keep the crystal active until I'm on the ship. No tricks. Ethan stepped forward, hands raised. Just you and me, walking out of here. The general limped toward him, the crystal crackling with unstable energy. When he was within arm's reach, Ethan moved, not with fire, not with lightning, with void. Umbrath's authority surged through his palm as he grabbed the crystal and pulled. The collapsing space-time event, instead of detonating outward, was drawn inward into Ethan's body. The crystal went dark. Grant's eyes widened with shock. What? The pain was indescribable. Ethan felt his atoms trying to fly apart, the void within him consuming the collapse energy like a black hole devouring a star. His vision went white. His blood felt like it was boiling and freezing simultaneously. Distantly, he heard Grace scream his name, heard Leo's shield slam down, heard Mara shouting medic protocols, but all he could focus on was holding. Don't let go, for them, for everyone. Don't let go. Umbrath's voice was a lifeline in the chaos. Steady caller, the void answers to will, not to strength. Will yourself to exist. Define your own existence against the nothing. That is the essence of the torch drake, the being who decides what is light and what is darkness, what is day and what is night. You are not just containing the void, you are commanding it. Ethan seized on the words. Define my own existence. He thought of Grace, her smile, her unshakable belief in him. He thought of Leo, his brother in all but blood, who'd given him everything. He thought of Mara, who'd survived against all odds, who'd raised him when their parents died. He thought of the world, flawed, chaotic, beautiful, and he said to the void, I am Ethan Cross. I am a Drake collar. I am the light and the darkness. I am the day and the night. I exist. The void stopped fighting him. It settled into his bones, not as an enemy, but as a part of him. The torch drake's breath, the legacy Grace's grandmother had spoken of, the relic guarded by the Harper bloodline, kindled to life within his soul, not from an external source, but from the very act of commanding existence over non-existence. The pain subsided. Ethan opened his eyes. He was still standing. The spatial collapse device was gone, its energy fully absorbed. Grant was on his knees, staring at him with utter disbelief. You ate a space-time collapse. You just ate it. I've had a big appetite lately. Ethan grabbed Grant by the collar and hauled him up. You're under arrest, and if you ever threaten my family again, I'll feed you to the void myself. Grant's head lolled. The fight had gone out of him. The outer god essence was receding, leaving behind a broken, bitter old man. You don't understand what's coming. Vornath is the least of the outer gods. There are 11 others. They're all watching Blue Star. When the shield fails, they'll descend together. Your drakes won't save you. Then I'll get more drakes, Ethan said. Or I'll find new power. Or I'll talk the outer gods into fighting each other. I don't know yet. But whatever's coming, I'll face it. That's what I do. He dragged Grant back to the group. Leo clapped him on the shoulder, almost knocking him over. You absolute maniac. I thought you were dead. Again. Me too, Mara said, her voice thick with unshed tears. Can you stop almost dying? For like 1 month? I'll try. Ethan managed a tired grin. Then he turned to Grace. I figured something out. The torch drake's breath, it's not a relic. It's a choice. The choice to exist, to define yourself, no matter what's trying to unmake you. Your grandmother knew that. That's why she never gave up, even when no drake answered her. She was a drake caller in spirit, even if not in power. Grace's eyes glistened. She would have liked you, I know. He took her hand. Let's get out of this rift. I've got a debriefing to attend, a general to hand over, and 5 more drakes to unlock. The journey back to the surface was grueling. The Godfall Rift's spatial geometry was unstable. What had taken seconds to descend now took hours to ascend. They fought through pockets of void-corrupted beasts, navigated shifting gravity zones, and at one point had to cross a bridge made of crystallized god blood that sang with the echoes of forgotten battles. By the time they emerged into the Badlands' pale sunlight, all 4 of them were exhausted, wounded, and covered in a fine layer of otherworldly dust. A military extraction team was waiting, led by President Harrison himself. The old man looked like he'd aged a decade in the past few days. You're alive, he said, his voice rough. When the rift started fluctuating, we thought. You should know by now, Ethan said. I'm hard to kill. Harrison's gaze fell on the bound, semi-conscious form of General Grant. And you brought him back alive. That's more than I expected. He's got intel on the outer gods. Vornath's main body, the other 11, their weaknesses. We need that information. Ethan's expression hardened. He'll stand trial, but first, we're extracting every shred of knowledge from his skull. Agreed. Harrison signaled the extraction team. Get the general into a suppression cell, maximum security, and get these 4 to the medical bay. No medical bay, Ethan said. I'm fine. There's something I need to do. Grace frowned. Ethan, you just absorbed a spatial collapse. You need rest. The torch drake's breath activated during the fight. It's dormant, but I can feel it, like a second heartbeat. Harrison, your family has guarded a secret for generations. I think it's time you told me the full story. Harrison was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. Come with me. The Harper estate was an old manor on the outskirts of the capital, its architecture a blend of modern fortification and ancient elegance. Harrison led Ethan, Grace, Leo, and Mara through a series of warded doors into a subterranean vault that hummed with protective enchantments. At the vault's center stood a pedestal, and on that pedestal rested a small, flickering flame. No larger than a candle's fire, but burning with a light that seemed to contain every color and none at once. The breath of the torch drake, Harrison said. My family has guarded it for 20 generations. The torch drake is not a drake in the conventional sense. It is the original form of the ancestral drake, the being that existed before the 9 suns were split from its soul. In ancient times, it was said that the torch drake's open eye brought daylight, and its closed eye brought night. It defined the very cycle of existence on Blue Star. Ethan approached the flame. It didn't burn hot. Instead, it radiated a profound sense of rightness, as if this tiny fire was the most real thing in the universe. The 9 suns are fragments of the torch drake's power, Harrison continued. To unite them, you must become the torch drake yourself. That means absorbing this breath and completing the transformation that began in the Godfall Rift. But there's a cost. Once you become the torch drake, you will no longer be merely human. You will be something between mortal and God, a living embodiment of the day-night cycle. Your lifespan will extend beyond normal limits. You will see the people you love grow old and die while you remain. Grace's hand tightened on Ethan's arm. Is there another way? No. Only the torch drake can fight the outer gods on equal footing. The 9 suns are powerful, but they are pieces of a whole. United, they are unstoppable. But that unity requires a vessel strong enough to contain them, a vessel transformed by the breath. Ethan stared into the flame. He thought of his parents who had died young so that he and Mara could live. He thought of Grace, whose grandmother had spent her life believing in drakes that never answered. He thought of the outer gods, circling Blue Star like vultures. And he thought of the future, the long, lonely future Harrison had described. Will I still be me? He asked quietly. Yes. The torch drake's power doesn't overwrite who you are. It completes you. The you that exists now is like a sapling. The torch drake is the full-grown tree, same roots, same soul, just more. Ethan turned to face his companions. Leo's jaw was set, his eyes suspiciously bright. Mara was crying openly, but she nodded. And Grace stepped forward and took his face in her hands. If you do this, I'm staying with you. I don't care if I get old and you don't. I'll find a way to keep up. I'm a Harper. We're stubborn. I know. He pressed his forehead to hers. Thank you. He turned back to the flame and reached out. The moment his fingers touched the breath, the world dissolved. He was standing in a void, not the cold, hungry void of the Godfall Rift, but a warm, expectant darkness, like the moment before dawn. Before him, a vast shape slowly opened its eyes. The torch drake. Its body was the sky itself, one half blazing with the colors of sunrise, the other half studded with the cold fires of 1,000 stars. Its left eye was the sun, its right eye was the moon. When it spoke, galaxies trembled. Ethan Cross, son of Earth, brother of Mara, beloved of Grace, friend of Leo. You have walked through fire and storm, abyss and void. You have commanded existence against nothingness. You have proven your will. Now I ask you, why do you seek my power? Ethan stood straight, meeting those impossible eyes. To protect my world, to destroy the outer gods, to make sure no one else has to lose their parents to monsters from beyond the rifts. Those are good reasons, but not the deepest one. Ethan hesitated. Then, slowly, he spoke the truth he'd never fully admitted, even to himself. Because when I was 7 years old, I watched my father die holding off a manticore. I watched my mother push me and Mara through a safety gate and then turn back to help him. I was too weak to save them. I've been afraid of being that weak again every single day since. I want your power so I never have to feel that helpless again. The torch drake was silent for a long cosmic moment. Then its eyes, sun and moon, softened. Fear is not weakness. It is the root of courage. The boy who was afraid and still fought is the man who will stand against the outer gods and not break. You are worthy, Ethan Cross. Not because you are fearless, but because you are afraid and still choose to fight. The flame ignited. Ethan's body was remade. Every cell, every atom was infused with the Torch Drake's essence. The 4 Drakes already within him, Pirax, Valeth, Nerexus, Umbreth, sang in harmony. And from the depths of his soul, 5 more voices answered: Terra, Zephyra, Aquarian, Ignis, and Glacius. The 9 suns reunited within him, not as separate beings, but as facets of a single unified draconic soul. His human form burned away and was reborn. When the light faded, Ethan Cross stood transformed. His hair was now streaked with silver and gold. His eyes held the cycle of day and night within them. Scales of iridescent pearl shimmered beneath his skin, visible only when the light caught them right. And from his back, 2 draconic wings, one burning with solar fire, the other shimmering with lunar frost, unfurled. The Torch Drake incarnation was complete. When Ethan opened his eyes in the vault, mere seconds had passed, but he felt like he'd lived 1,000 lifetimes. Grace was still holding his face. Leo and Mara were frozen mid-step. Even Harrison looked breathless. "Well," Ethan said, his voice resonating with harmonic undertones, "that was intense." Grace laughed, a sound halfway between relief and hysteria. "You're glowing. Literally glowing." He looked down at himself. A faint aura of shifting light rippled over his skin. "Huh. I'll have to learn to control that." Harrison bowed. Actually bowed. "The Torch Drake walks among us again. I never thought I'd live to see it." "Neither did the Outer Gods," Ethan said. "Let's keep it that way for now. I need time to master this form. The 9 suns are united, but I can feel their powers. They're vast, and I've only scratched the surface. If Vornith's main body attacked right now, I might be able to fight it off, but not without destroying half the continent." "Then we train," Grace said. "The 4 universities have ancient training grounds designed for demigod-level combatants. We'll use them." "And the other Outer Gods?" Mara asked. "They're still out there, watching, but they're cautious now. They felt the Torch Drake's rebirth. Every psionically sensitive being on the planet probably did. They won't attack recklessly. We have time." "Time to prepare," Leo said, "and time to build alliances. Secure country, the Iron Duchies, the Free Cities, they all have their own elite warriors. If we're facing 12 Outer Gods, we'll need everyone." Ethan nodded. Agreed. "But first, we need to clean house. General Grant was just the most visible traitor. There are others, politicians, military officers, guild masters, who've been making deals with rift cults. I want them rooted out before we face an external threat." "I'll coordinate with the War Council," Harrison said. "You focus on mastering your power. Leave the politics to me." The weeks that followed were a blur of training, strategy sessions, and covert operations. Ethan spent his days in the ancient training grounds beneath the capital, a pocket dimension where time flowed differently, allowing months of training to pass in mere weeks of real time. The Torch Drake's power was immense, but it was also complex. Each of the 9 suns had their own techniques, their own domains. To fight effectively, Ethan had to learn to shift between them seamlessly. Fire to storm to abyss to void, and the 5 additional elements, earth, wind, water, pure flame, and absolute frost, Grace trained alongside him, pushing herself to new heights. With her grandfather's resources and her own iron will, she broke through to Tier 8 and began developing techniques that blended her combat style with draconic resonance. Not summoning drakes, but harmonizing with Ethan's power to amplify both of them. Leo, meanwhile, became the unbreakable wall of their team. His tower shield was upgraded with void-forged alloys and inscribed with runes derived from Umbrath's own essence, making it capable of blocking attacks that would level city blocks. And Mara, never one to be left behind, began studying under the capital's top healers. Learning techniques that could mend wounds inflicted by Outer God corruption, the Grant conspiracy unraveled under Harrison's relentless investigation. Dozens of co-conspirators were arrested. The Grant family's assets were seized and redistributed to families who'd been victims of their monopoly. Derek Grant, the bully who'd started it all, was sentenced to 20 years in a maximum security detention facility. Amber Vance, whose betrayal had cut Ethan so deeply, disappeared into obscurity. Her A-rank Blaze Mage class meaning nothing without the connections she'd burned. On the day of the final purge, Ethan stood on the balcony of the capital's rebuilt palace, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and gold. Grace joined him, leaning against the railing. "You're thinking about them," she said. "Not a question. My parents? They would have loved to see this. A world without the Grant family's corruption. A world where a trash class like Drake Collar can become the planet's greatest hope." He smiled faintly. "Dad always said I'd either change the world or burn it down. Guess I did a little of both." "You changed it," Grace said firmly. Don't ever doubt that. He turned to face her, the sunset catching the silver gold streaks in his hair. Grace, before we go any further, before we face the outer gods, there's something I need to say. I've almost died a dozen times since this started. Every time, you were there, pulling me back or fighting beside me. I don't know what the future holds, but I know I want you in it, whatever that looks like. She stepped closer, her eyes bright. Are you asking me something, Ethan Cross? I'm telling you, I love you. I think I've loved you since the moment you handed me that reset scroll and told me to pay you back when I was rich. I'm rich now, in Drake's, in friends, in purpose. But without you, none of it means anything. Grace kissed him. It was not a gentle kiss. It was fierce and desperate and full of all the fear and hope they'd carried through every battle. When they finally broke apart, she was smiling. I love you too, you idiot. I've loved you since you told me you wanted to earn your spot at the Capital University instead of taking a back door. Now stop being sappy. We've got outer gods to kill. He laughed, the sound carrying on the evening breeze. Yes, ma'am. That night, the War Council convened for the most important briefing in human history. The chamber was packed, not just with Dragon Nation's leaders, but with representatives from every major power on Blue Star. Sakura Country's shogun, the Iron Duchy's Grand Marshal, the Free City's Council of Merchants. Even the reclusive Frostholm Republic had sent an envoy. At the center of it all stood Ethan Cross, the Torch Drake incarnate, flanked by his team. He looked out at the assembled leaders, some skeptical, some awed, some calculating, and began to speak. 3 years ago, I was a nobody, a Drake collar in a world that thought Drakes were extinct. I was mocked, betrayed, and told I'd never amount to anything. Today, I stand before you as the vessel of the Torch Drake, the united power of the 9 draconic suns. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. The outer gods are real. They're not myths. They're not rift monsters. They're ancient, intelligent, and hungry. Vorneth was just the vanguard. There are 11 more waiting beyond the planetary shield. In 3 years, maybe less, that shield will fail. When it does, they will descend on Blue Star, and they will try to devour every living soul. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Sakura Shogun, a stern woman with steel-gray hair, spoke up. We've heard reports of your power, Drake Caller, but one warrior, even a demigod, cannot fight 12 outer gods alone. You're right, I can't. Ethan met her eyes. But I'm not asking to fight alone. I'm asking for an alliance. Every nation on Blue Star has its own heroes, its own elites, its own ancient weapons sealed in vaults. I'm asking you to open those vaults, train your warriors, share your knowledge. Because when the outer gods come, they won't care about borders or old grudges. They'll kill everyone equally. The Iron Duchy's Grand Marshal, a scarred veteran with a mechanical arm, leaned forward. And what's your plan, Cross? You must have one. 3 phases. Phase 1, consolidation. We root out every rift cult and outer god worshipper on the planet, their intelligence leaks and potential 5th columns. Phase 2, fortification. We reinforce the planetary shield as much as possible, buying us more time. Phase 3, counteroffensive. When the shield fails, we don't wait for the outer gods to come to us. We take the fight to them, hit their realms before they can coordinate an invasion. Raid the outer gods' domains. The Free City's representative looked incredulous. That's suicide. It's less suicidal than waiting for them to hit us all at once. Ethan's expression hardened. I've seen what an outer god's fragment can do. A full outer god is 1,000 times worse. If we fight them on Blue Star, the collateral damage will be catastrophic. But if we fight them in their own realms, in the void between worlds, we limit the damage. We also catch them off guard. They think we're prey. Let's show them we're predators. A long silence followed. Then the Sakura Shogun stood. Sakura Country will join this alliance. Our Shadowblade division has been compromised by traitors, but our Storm Samurai are the finest warriors on the eastern continent. They'll fight beside you. The Iron Duchy's Grand Marshal nodded slowly. The duchies will contribute our warforges and our Titan legions. If you need weapons that can hurt a god, we'll make them. One by one, the other representatives pledged their support. By the end of the night, the Blue Star Alliance was born. The first truly global coalition in the planet's history. Later, after the delegates had dispersed, Ethan stood alone in the empty council chamber. The moon was high, its light streaming through the stained glass windows and casting fractured colors across the floor. He sensed a presence behind him before she spoke. You're good at speeches. Mara walked up to stand beside him. Mom would have been proud. She would have said I was being too dramatic, Ethan said with a faint smile, and Dad would have told me to stop showing off and get some sleep. Probably. Mara leaned her head against his shoulder. But they'd be proud anyway. You've come a long way from the kid who cried when his class orb turned gold and everyone laughed. I had a lot of help, Leo. Grace. You had help because you earned it, because you never gave up on people, even when they gave up on you. She paused. I'm scared, Ethan. The outer gods, they're so much bigger than anything we've faced. What if we fail? He put his arm around her. Then we fail together, but I don't plan on failing. The Torch Drake's power is still growing. Every day, I understand it a little more. And the Alliance, it's not just words. People want to fight. They just needed someone to show them it was possible. And you're that someone. Looks like it. He squeezed her shoulder. Get some rest. We've got a long road ahead. Mara nodded and slipped away. A moment later, Grace emerged from the shadows where she'd been waiting. You're supposed to be asleep, Ethan said without turning. So are you. She came to stand on his other side. The Alliance is a good start, but we both know the real battle will come down to you and the outer gods. Not just me. The 9 suns are part of me now, but they're also separate. In the final battle, I can manifest them all at once. 9 drakes, each with their own power. And the Torch Drake form is something beyond that. I haven't even tested its limits yet. Then test them tomorrow. Grace took his hand. Tonight, just be here, with me. We've earned a few hours of peace. He turned to face her, the moonlight catching the silver in his hair. You're right, we have. They stood together in the quiet chamber, 2 figures against the coming storm, drawing strength from each other's presence. Outside, the world was marshaling its forces, forging weapons, training warriors. The countdown to the shield's failure had begun. But for this one night, Ethan Cross allowed himself to rest. Tomorrow, he would push the limits of his power. Tomorrow, he would begin preparations for the war to end all wars. Tomorrow, he would continue the mission that had started with a golden light in a crowded auditorium and had led him to become something more than human. But tonight, he was just a man, standing with the woman he loved, watching the moon trace its ancient path across the sky. In the depths of interstellar space, beyond the fragile shell of Blue Star's planetary shield, 11 presences stirred. They had felt the death of Vornath's avatar. They had sensed the rebirth of the Torch Drake, and they were not afraid. They were interested. The little world has grown teeth, one of them murmured, a voice like cracking ice. How amusing. The Torch Drake was a threat in the ancient war. Another added its voice a chorus of screams. But this new vessel is still mortal, still fragile, still bound by attachments. We will use those attachments. A third agreed. Its form a writhing mass of tentacles and eyes. We will make him choose between his world and his loved ones, and when he breaks, we will feast. The 11 outer gods turned their collective gaze toward the blue jewel in the void. 3 years. That was how long the shield would hold. 3 years to plan, to manipulate, to set their traps. 3 years until the end of all things, or the beginning of a new age. Back on Blue Star, Ethan Cross dreamed of fire and darkness, of wings that spanned galaxies, and eyes that held the cycle of day and night. In his dream, the Torch Drake spoke to him, its voice the rumble of creation. You are my vessel, Ethan Cross, but you are also yourself. Do not lose that. The outer gods will try to make you choose between duty and love. The only way to defeat them is to refuse the choice. Hold on to everything. Protect everyone. That is the true power of the Torch Drake. Not fire, not void, but the refusal to let go. Ethan woke with the dawn, the dream still vivid in his mind. He rose, dressed, and walked out to the training grounds where Grace was already waiting, her combat uniform crisp, her eyes bright with determination. Ready to test your limits? She asked. He summoned the 9 suns, Pyrax, Valeth, Nerexus, Umbrath, Terra, Zephyra, Aquarian, Ignis, and Glacius, their ethereal forms circling overhead like a constellation of living elements. Then he drew them into himself, felt the Torch Drake form ignite, and spread his solar and lunar wings. Ready, he said. Let's give the outer gods something to be afraid of. And in the training grounds beneath the ancient university, as the sun rose on a new day, the Torch Drake roared, and the world answered.
If you enjoyed today's story, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss more stories like these. The goal of this channel is to reach 1,000 subscribers, so go ahead and subscribe to help us hit that milestone. And don't forget to share your opinion about the story.